La. Hola community, welcome to another episode of Blender Today Live, episode 180. I'm Pablo Vasquez, streaming live from the Blender studio, the Blender HQ here in Amsterdam. It's around 5 p.m. and we have a full hour at least of features. We're gonna be talking about cycle stuff, the viewports much faster, the image editor can handle any resolution you throw at it, virtually. What else? Video sequence editor, asset browser, geometry nodes, of course, like every week, and USD improvements, you name it. It's gonna be fun. I hope you have a warm tea or something. If you're in the summer, if you're in the southern hemisphere, you're in winter. No, the other way around. Here you are in winter. I'm still jet lagged. You know what? I have a bunch of updates that are related to Blender. One of them, it's of course, it's Blender.Today. Some of them are projects by the Blender Animation Studio, also known as Blender Studio. Look how amazing the open source community is. Why? Because you know that the Blender Studio releases the films as open content, and every tool that is used by the Blender Studio to make Sprite Fright or Spring, Caminandes, you name it, is open source. Well, this is the latest addition to the family. It's called Watchtower. Watchtower is here to fill the need of like viewing the entire project, in this case a short film, but it could also work with bigger projects all at once. So it's made by Francesco City, Ines Almeida. Francesco has been the producer of Sprite Fright, Spring, Caminandes, many other projects. So as a producer, he always wanted to have a global view of the project. So this here is the entire film of Sprite Fright. You can see everything. Well, there is now this tool that they made that it's allows you to just simply browse and navigate in the browser, drag and just drag and position and filter the entire film, the tasks associated with them, like who is doing what in case of the users of the team, the assets that are, like, if you want to see where is the apple in or in like the bad mushroom in Sprite Fright. Well, this tool allows you to see that, to see in which of those shots or what assets are in that specific shot. It's insane. The status is all the tasks, rendering, lighting, animation. It's just insane. So you should check it out, especially if you work in a studio environment. You should have a look. It just got released a few hours ago, so and I think GitLab was down, like the site where it's hosted. Okay, now it's back. So yeah, have a look. It's open source, of course, and it's GPL. It works with the Kitsu backend, so the Zoo backend that was also used for the rest of the film. But if you are a bit savvy with like coding, you can probably rearrange the way the data is given to Watchtower to fit your project. So super neat. It's like very cool to see it alive. You can see the entire film. It's just magic. It uses Canvas, so it's super fast and responsive in the viewport. I don't know how these people do it. You know what else? Let's jump into some topics. First, this week alone, actually in the last like 3-4 days, I got people poke me online on Instagram and on Twitter about jobs looking, like companies looking for Blender people. So Warner Bros. Animation is looking for a technical director for their Wings of Fire adaptation, and they in the job opening it says experience with Blender preferred, an experience with open source software development preferred. Isn't that amazing? Not only Blender preferred, but also open source in general. So yeah, super awesome. Warner Bros. Animation. The links are all in the description, by the way. And also, not only that, but are you familiar with Avatar by Nick Animation? Well, same. Nick Animation and Avatar Studios are looking for storyboard artists with Blender experience. Isn't that amazing? Like, just awesome. Like, here, must have Blender experience. It's not like preferred, it's must. That is just so cool. This is just mind-blowing. Nick Animation, Avatar Studios, Warner Bros. Animation. Nice, nice. Not the industry standard yet, but it's getting there, and these things help a lot. So have a look. Again, the links are in the description. And last but not least, the announcement of the week, which you know from last week, is that the Blender 3.2 alpha is here. Although there's only like 2 or 3 features, small features added, so 3.1 is still the main release. If you want to use it, yeah, I would say you should use the beta. The alpha, it has all the fixes from the beta, of course, but the additions to 3.1, they're all in 3.2, and additions to 3.2, there are not that many. And in 3.1, you're actually going to see the new splash screen, which you may have seen here in the thumbnail of the video, of this video. And if you haven't seen it yet, is a great piece of art. This is the image by Orencloud, by Lorenzo. Super cool, very nice. Not sure what it was used here. I think there is an article in Blender Nation about it, but I haven't seen it. Maybe it's geometry notes, I'm not sure, but the blend file is gonna be available once 3.1 is out. All right, time to get into business. Do I have the pipe here? Yes, the pipe to get into the juicy part of the show, which is where the features are. So first of all, let's go with the title of this video. The subdivision modifier, which has received some critiques in the last, well, since it was added, basically since it was ported into OpenSubdiv to use the OpenSubdiv, Pixar's OpenSubdiv library. It was only using CPU, so it was very limited. You could have a 3090 or like super high-end graphics card, and it wouldn't take advantage of it. Not anymore, because as of many weeks, actually, this could have been included last week, but OpenSubdiv adds support for OpenGL Evaluator. Doesn't say much, but what you need to know is that now it uses GPU, and if the subdivision modifier is placed at the end of your modifier stack list. So yeah, it's fantastic news. It's Kevin Dietrich. Thank you so much for working on it. It's a very long-lasting request by the community for performance. Again, I said it for 3.0 and I say it again. The 3.x series is focusing so much in performance that it's going to be a leap, the giant leap. Not only to support newer hardware, but also just all hardware. Everybody gets benefits from it, not just the fancy graphics cards. You know what else was added related to the subdivision surface modifier? Creasing. Vertex creasing for subdivision modifier is now supported. This allows to mark vertices as arbitrarily sharp to create interesting shapes more efficiently. So this you don't have to, let's see, look at that, pointiness. No, not actual pointiness, but yeah, this is so cool. Again, this was also needed for a while. This wasn't supported. It's edge creasing, but now vertex creasing. So cool, so cool. How's the chat going, by the way? I have the chat here. I'm gonna listen to some nice music, and it keeps my ears warm. This is like internet cafe, cyber cafe. We call it cyber cafe in Argentina, cyber cafe, when you go into this mode. Everything okay? The audio is fine, the video is fine. Let's continue. This is the viewport updates. There's also this week, some cycles. So, well, how much faster is it? The question is how much faster? Well, this is how much faster is hard to measure, I guess, because it just uses GPU. So depends on how slow or fast your CPU was against how much faster is your GPU. Maybe you have a amazing CPU and not so amazing GPU, and then you wouldn't see the difference so much. But okay, let's jump into cycles. So there has been an improvement that took me a while to understand exactly what was it. It says remove ray offsetting. So from the looks of it, it looks like it was just something was removed. But after looking at the task, and especially the before and after, you can see that well, apparently small ray offsets were added to avoid self-intersection, to like something to help when you have intersecting meshes. If you look at the examples, so if you look at the timings, it looks like it's slower. Yes, there is a very small penalty in render time. So it's slightly takes 1 or 2% more to render. However, there are a few renders here where you can see the difference. This is not the case. This is the barber shop. I couldn't tell the difference between one and the other, except that it takes slightly longer to render. However, in the BMW test, could see in this is without and this is with. It was like dial-up times for loading images. But so this is before, this is after. So you can see here there is a difference in rendering. So make sure to check your renders to see if you tell this difference. It looks like it's better here. Also here, look at in the bricks, you're gonna see the difference, how the crease it's much better handled. Like this before, this is after. So it looks like it would get lost if it was too far away, and now there is more info basically. What else? There is this one didn't see any difference. This one also no difference. Sorry, I'm just jumping into the ones that I remember seeing a difference. This one in particular, this is maybe the showcase. Look how here the geometry, like the lighting goes through the mesh. It's like, if you compare it with the other result, this is before, this is after. So you can see how when the mesh was very small, the shading was completely off. So yeah, massive fix. Like, it makes me want to re-render all my blends to see what I was missing. So yeah, yay for that. Very tiny 1 or 2% penalty in render time, but look at how precise this is right now. So yay for that. Thanks for working on it, William. Let's see what else. There is a new node in town, not only for geometry laws. There's a new node for cycles. It's called point info. Similar to the object info, this point info gives you the center position, output, the radius, and random value. So you can assign a random value to each one of the points, just like you can do with objects. So great, since now we have point cloud support in cycles. Super welcome. What else? Performance. Did you know? Well, actually no, it wasn't added last week. So there is a new setting. There's a new setting that allows to disable compact VVH. What does it do? Well, in some cases, some very specific cases, for example, in the Victor render test, the file from Cosmos Laundromat, there is a decrease in render time. So it's actually faster to render at the expense of some memory use. So if memory is not an issue for you, you may want to disable compact VVH. It's a setting that it's available in the Oh, I already had Blender open. So this is 3.2 alpha. However, 3.1 beta also has this feature, and it has the new splash screen. So yeah, if you're in cycles under performance, you're gonna find the new option that it's performance. You're gonna find the compact VVH setting. If you want to have the chance of maybe test if it can render faster, disable it. Remember, it's gonna use more memory, but it might render slightly faster. There is a few other, like the barbershop is also from 816 minutes to 803, slightly faster, 100 megs only more to render. So yeah, there is a difference. It's not huge, but in some cases the BMW is also a few seconds faster. So yeah, something to test in a case-per-case basis. And the last change that was added time ago, actually last month, to cycles, I didn't mention it last week, the add fisheye lens polynomial camera model. So yeah, it allows real-world cameras to be modeled by specifying the coordinates of a 4th-degree polynomial that relates a pixel distance in millimeters from the optical center of the sensor to the angle of the world ray that is projected onto that pixel. If you understood what it was just said, because I didn't, then you're gonna find this super handy fisheye lens polynomial camera. Okay, time to jump already into the next section, animation. So in the animation section, there's only one feature. It's in the graph editor. Allows you, this new feature is called equalize handle, and allows you to basically flatten the or equalize the handles. So it works as such. You press the operator, and I don't know if you got to see it. This is a GIF, so we're gonna have to wait until it goes back. So basically, oh, with flatten is the one that flattens, but otherwise, oh, that's cool. So key, equalize handles, and you see it flatten everything, and then you can choose how much. Then you can choose the left side or the right side of your selection, and you can disable flattening to make the handles completely flat at an angle. So cool. Let's see the next section. Let's talk a little bit about performance. So I mentioned that there is an update in the image editor that allows you to render, to basically just throw any image size virtually. So how big can we go? Well, there is a test here. So Draw Manager, image engine, support huge images. Wait. I wanted to give a shout out before to the creator of the patch for handle operator, because I haven't seen your name before. Kevin C. Burke, Blast Frame, nice nickname. Thanks for working on it. I haven't seen your name before. Hope to see more of you. The Draw Manager now supports huge images. Okay, how big? Let's see here. So when this introduces partial updating, which is supported for texture and painting workflows. So let's see how big is this image. It's much bigger than what you can do right now in Blender. So for example, here we have an image that is 16K by 8K. So it's a splash screen, and it's 16,000 pixels. So now you can draw, basically you can paint on a 16K image, even when this is not Blender loading. This is just the video that it didn't load. This internet slow. Look, zoomed out, you can still paint 16K. It may lag in some parts, depends on how fast you move the brush, but hey, 16K, try doing that in the current Blender. It's crazy. You know what else is crazy? 16K, peanuts. Look at this image, 53,000 pixels. So 53K. This is just okay. 16K was big enough. Let's see. Maybe even the video is. Where is this coming from? I'm in the Netherlands. The servers are in the Netherlands. Why is it so slow? Okay, so let's see. This is the image engine redesign project by Jeroen Bakker at Mind. So this is a 53K image that is browsing and panning around like nothing. Lower memory usage. Fixes steering issues that were present in the browser, in the image browser before. Improves the video sequence editor transformation. Probably uses the same concept, I guess. Okay, now the video is taking time to look. I heard we were getting gigabyte internet here, but it might not be here yet. Okay, let's see. Improves the VSE transformation, and above all, look at that. Now, I like the teasing. Fractal zoomer in the image engine. Zoom out. Zoom out. This is 53K. And repeat images. How I lost count. That's crazy. This is just show off. Come on. 53K. 100K. A bunch of Ks. That is amazing. So thank you, Jeroen, for working on this. Performance again. Just insane. 53K picture. Okay, more performance. This is just the beginning. No, I'm kidding. This was the most impressive part of the day. But hey, there is also some improvements again by Jeroen. The performance god that notice that when loading sprite fried blend files, a lot of time was spent in remapping IDs. So it's just remapping from one ID to the other or parts of these IDs. So basically, by optimizing this, by grouping it together, doing some magic under the hood. Okay, let's see the result. In an i7 6700, the process went from 170 seconds to 145. So not too bad during hotspot recording. So it's even probably takes more time because it's recording it. But yeah, the most impressive part is here. In my understanding, this could reuse. There is even more improvements that could be done later that could reuse the resyncing process to less than a second. That is a big assumption, Jeroen. We wait for the results, but hey, massive update. 170, 145. Yay for less render time, less waiting time, less loading time, less time overall. You know, every render improvement, it's not a render improvement, but every time there is a speed up in render time, we're contributing a little bit more into saving the planet. Of course, if we didn't render at all, if Blender didn't exist, how much less? No, let's not think about the environmental impact of rendering software. Let's see, though, that now you can export OBJ much faster. So in this patch by Aras Prankevicius, the export time is around 8 times faster than in current C++. So it even much faster than the Python one that we had in the past. Last week I mentioned the new C++ version of this OBJ exporter, and that now is actually 8 times faster in a Windows machine with 32 threads and nearly 6 times faster on a Linux machine with 48 threads. So there is more memory usage, but still 25 times less memory than the old Python exporter. And this was done by testing the splash screen of 3.0, so the one with the sprite fried, with the character Ellie and the bird. That's insane. is the stream having issues? Am I going down? Well, maybe I mean, if it took that long to load a video, I imagine the internet here can be also a bit. Is okay? Is that okay? Cool. Oh, you're having stream issues. Well, I hope it's over. Let's see. The update here. It's people memory, but 25 less, 25 times less memory than the Python version. So very, very welcome. What would be the next one to be ported into C++? Let's continue. I have some more updates in the asset browser, user interface, and video sequencer. Let's start with the UI. This change is, I know we got amazing changes this week, GPU, Subdivision, Subsurf, but this one is my favorite by far, because this one affects everyone and everyone, even those without a GPU, dedicated GPU. Look at that. In the user interface, the star of the show today is this fix that allows, well, that prevents basically clicking through panels. Have you ever noticed, like since forever, like in 3. Like in any version, let's see, let's open 2.90. So this was the same anywhere. Even 3.0 has this issue. So ever notice how you could click through anywhere, basically through a panel, through, like even here in the, you could click through headers of panels. You could click through here, through in between object, in between like widgets. So annoying. Here, it was the worst. It was the worst offender. Being able to click in the sidebar, that's just evil. Click and drag. It's just, there is so many reports on this, but now it's over. Ladies and gentlemen, non-binaries, this is the day where you can click, drag, and it's gone. It's just fixed. Now, there is no more clicking through. It knows that there is something first. It knows that there is a panel or a tab or a widget or something that it doesn't have to let you click through anymore. This is amazing. This goes back to like, I would say 2.7, I assume. With where are the user preferences here? It's so weird to see 2.7 nowadays. Yeah, if you had region overlap, you could click anywhere basically. This comes a long way. This is not just 3.0. This is amazing. So cool. So happy about this. Okay. If you want a picture of this, you can see how I made this image to show the issue. Like basically you could click anywhere in the red area. So bad. Not anymore. This was the ideal click-through area, and they made it happen. Julian made it happen. So thank you, Julian. The next improvement in the user interface, it doesn't have to do with the UI itself. It's just a new addition to the file browser, to the list of the system list, the list of links provided by the system on Windows. This is only a Windows feature that now has a link to OneDrive. Added by Harley. Okay, the next section is the asset browser. So did you ever find yourself wanting to make an asset reuse more easily your node groups? Yes, node groups can now become assets. You can right click on a node group. So you just go here, right click, mark as asset. This was possible if you had the extended asset browser in the experimental settings. Not anymore. Now this is a native asset. Like it's part of Blender and you don't have to enable anything. It's gonna show up here. But hey, what about the preview, because a preview can be anything, right? These geometry nodes can be or it can be a shader, for example. Does it work also in shading? Shading. So right click, mark as asset. So I have a material. No, sorry, that's a material. If I have this, mark as asset, this node group, and material node group, does it work? Then I go to, where was it? Here. Oh wow, yeah, material node group. It would be cool to if it would tell you. Well, does it have to? I wonder. Like a little icon here for that says that it's for geometry nodes. It is a shading node group. Yeah, basically this is a geometry nodes group. You cannot add it to itself, of course. But what if I add another one? And what if I make a new one and I add this one here? There you go. So a new node group. It's an asset. The material node group, what if I drop it here? Report error, cannot add node group to geometry nodes. It could tell you, right? It could tell you, hey, this is shading. Go, you're drunk, go home. This is shading node group, doesn't belong in the geometry nodes. But anyway, if you want to render or if you want to, I spoiled the feature. If you want to add a thumbnail to this, you can now from the sidebar, click in this little arrow over here and render the active object. So this will basically just render from the camera view whatever you have. So in this case, oh no, not from the camera view even, or does it? No, it just re-renders from there the active object as a preview. So you can have your own custom previews. Of course, you can also just specify your own. You can go to load and it will load the file, the image file that you want. Maybe you want that, but you can also render the active object as such. Next, let's jump into, wait, we need thumbnails for the node group asset. This is what I explained, that you can have thumbnails for the node group. Custom with your own image or render the active object as such. Or am I missing anything? The node groups in asset browser is for 3.1. Yes, I believe so. Yes, this was committed on Wednesday. So yeah, I think it's just made it like barely made it, but I think it's in 3.1. Let's see. Does it say branches? 3.1 release, yes. If you want to know, usually when you see the commit, you can see in which branches it was committed. In this case, Blender 3.1 branch is here, so yay for that. Let's see. Let's continue. Okay, let's talk about the video sequence editor. There is two updates. One of them is a setting that has changed. The use timecodes setting is now enabled by default to prevent a mismatch of the displayed frame when using proxies. So not much has changed. It's just, I think it's just the default that is now on by default when you create new strips. And yeah, and also that the quality is no longer 25 by default, is 50 now. Users have reported that having it at 25% by default, it was just an extra click because users usually, like, it was just too pixelated to be useful. So 50% is now the default. Of course, you can change it. And the other update is to hopefully make browsing seeking through your sequence much faster by preventing to build proxies for those videos that are already fast. Maybe you have a fast computer and a fast codec, and the video that you just added, it's fast enough to seek around without having to make a proxy, an automatic proxy. So now Blender, the sequencer, will create proxies, automatic proxies, only if the group of pictures can be decoded in it takes more than 100 milliseconds to decode. So that is considered slow, and that's why it will only build it if it's slow. Okay, next improvement in this geometry node section. I left it for almost the end. However, great stuff here. New node in town. It's called merge by distance. Like the good old remove doubles. Who remembers the remove doubles operator? And then it got renamed into merge by distance to go together with the other merge operators. Now it's back in the shape of a node. Merge by distance. Here, let's see it. Is there a picture? No, but there is numbers. So apparently it's much more efficient. So much so that the oh, I don't have it here, but the wealth modifier changed. Oh yeah, because it's an internal change, was changed to use this code about the merge by distance. So EA for that. A new update in the Boolean math modifier. Node. Logic stuff. So up until now, or last week, the Boolean math node only had 3 options: and, or not. So if this and that, do whatever, or not. There is now 6 more. So not and, nor, equal, not equal, imply, and subtract. If you don't know exactly what this does, just go to the patch. Again, the links are in the description. So yeah, basically not and. These are very, very common if you're used to any kind of other logic, even video games. Like not and is if it returns true when at least one of the inputs is false. Nor returns true when both inputs are false. So one nor the other are false, it's true. The output is true. So equal when both are the same. Not equal when they are different, when both inputs are different. Imply returns true unless the first input is true and the second is false. And subtract returns true when the first input is true and the second is false. I link to the patch here itself because I really like I like reading through commit logs. That's my hobby. The commit logs, because you can see the history of the patch. You know, all the things that changed, the names have changed, but also you can see that some developers maybe is like, hey, why, in which case should you use these 2 settings? Are they really that useful? And then the answer, when, for example, and this the developer here, Mystery Pancake, shows how you could do it with like how you can use it, when it's the case that this would work. And then Simon, artist, comes back here with some feedback on the UI and the usability. And again, you could use with the switch node, you could do the same as implies, but this will be the setup. So it's a bit more, you could have the same result, but it's a bit more setup, work to set up. And then yeah, okay, I'm gonna commit it, changes here, and then feedback on renaming. Instead of exclusive nor, just call it equal. So feedback on the UI, and I don't know, I love to see this. It's so it's like alive, you know. The patch is not perfect on day 1, but you get a lot of feedback back and forth between artists, developers, and people from the community that just makes the whole process much better, much more polished. It's also a learning opportunity for everyone. Okay, next next improvement is in the string to curves node. There is now 2 new attribute outputs: line, which outputs the line number of the character, and pivot point outputs the selected pivot point position per character. So these 2 new field outputs in the string to curves node. And last but not least, an improvements in the UX of the search, the link drag search that I showed last week for the Boolean math node. So instead of showing the Boolean socket names, it's now going to show the operation instead of the socket name. So much more useful. Okay. Time to, let's see. Well, let's see the questions. Is there going to be caustics in 3.1? No, this has been moved to 3.2. Let's see. So next, yeah, we're almost done. I think we're in the POTPOURRI section. We have Python API, some add-on updates, but this one is huge for USD, Universal Scene Description Library by Pixar, super popular, industry standard format. Well, now Blender 3.1 supports preview surface material export. So yay, the materials in your Blender scene are gonna be converted into, like, using a very small subset of nodes, like BSDF principal, the principal BSDF, diffuse BSDF, image textures, and UV map nodes are going to be converted into this preview that you can, basically allows you to see, to export the materials, to preview them in USD files. So there's a few settings. Export textures is going to make, it's going to save those textures in a folder called textures next to the USD file. Then override textures is gonna override the existing texture files. This one is off by default, I assume, to prevent any loss of data. And last is the relative texture paths, which you usually often want, and it's probably on by default. I am not sure about this, but it's a setting that allows you to have the textures relative to the USD file, like / textures, for example. All right, the next update in the list of POTPOURRI, this one concerns you if you use, for example, Chinese input or simplified Chinese or Japanese inputs. So ideographic full stop to decimal point. Again, another one fun to read. Like the entire thread is actually pretty fun to read. It's based on a bug report, and it just has input from people everywhere. Like this is the bug reported. So yeah, basically the dot input was wrong, but you can see here the amount of people that got involved, giving feedback. People from that use the Japanese, Korean or Chinese keyboard layouts. It's so cool to see, like, everybody involved from everywhere, like Harley from Canada, working with people from Japan, and so cool. And the last but not least, if you compile Blender on Windows, the Microsoft Visual Code 2017 has been retired. Now you need to update to 2019 16.9.16 compiler. Okay, quickly, let's go through the Python changes. Blender, well, Python, this is the Python change. 3.10 has been introduced for Linux, Mac, and Windows. So you can use all the goodies, all the goodies in Python 3.10. Blender is really staying. Which one is the latest Python? Like, are we really staying? Wow, bleeding edge. The latest one is 3.10.2. That's super cool. All right. Next, what else? Point clouds. Speaking of point clouds in cycles, the API for it is now exposed. So you can use, maybe if you have an add-on that wants to access point clouds via Python, now you can. And speaking of accessing via Python, now you can access crazy space corrections. What is that? Well, if you're not familiar with crazy space, then you probably don't need it, but it's that crazy space that is the deform. So if you have the final deform position of a of a mesh, for example, of your points. And it's called crazy space because it can go crazy. But you can also do crazy stuff with it, because by this position being available via Python, it means you can make add-ons for crazy stuff, such as this one here by Demeter. He's working on an add-on apparently that it's here. So it's basically you transform, right? You change your bone, then you want to add a corrective shape key, for example. So by accessing this deformation via Python, you can basically just fix that position with a shape key and then transfer that back to the original mesh in the shape of a shape key. So yeah, super cool. The amount, like the amount of workflow, different workflows that this opens is huge. So for riggers, rejoice. For TDs as well. You can find again this link in the description, so you can see what Demeter has been doing here. But he explains it really well, that store the value, make some corrections, and then apply the corrections on top of the deform mesh. So crazy things that were not possible before. Okay, and last but not least, let's talk a little bit about add-ons. First, Rigify. Again, Demeter added this option to disable install feature sets. So if you have a bunch of feature sets and you don't want them all enabled, you can now disable one by one without having to uninstall. Not deinstall, uninstall. Again, POTPOURRI, add primitive workspace tools, icons, blur reflections, equation base. A lot of fixes apparently done to the POTPOURRI add-on, and the IO Mesh Atomic add-on also got a bunch of updates. Like, the list is too long to even see it. And we are running out of time, but last week I had, so now there's 9 comments, but I want to quickly go through the comments from last week because I feel bad for not replying. Yeah, I completely forgot last week about the questions in Blender.Today. So let's see, when will Blender.Today live? No, new. So this doesn't even work. By top? No, by new. It's not in Blender.Today. Blender.Today. Here, this one. There were 6 questions last week that I didn't get to. I completely forgot about them. So let's jump into the Q&A section of the show. Let's see. So, what do you think about right-click select suggestion? No socket split like Unreal blueprints. Oh yeah, that would be great. I think I saw this proposal. Yes. So being able to split one into 3. Yeah, I wonder how's that. How hard is that to do? But yeah, absolutely. And I'm a bit annoyed that the input here is in between the 2 lines. It should be on the top. But yeah, I like this. I support this. Let's give it a vote. Who downvoted? Why wouldn't you like to have this? Okay, sorry. Next, Roscoe Barefoot. Would be nice to have a mask modifier, not even high. Hello, Roscoe. Would be nice to have a mask modifier for grease pencil to have a mask effect multiple grease pencil objects. Any news on that being in the works? No, but I imagine you can do that already. Now, yeah, you have a mask. You have masks in layers. Or you mean a modifier? Like to mask out meshes? You can already do it with regular masks, but then you have to set up. Tricky. Fred asks, the geometry nodes go again high, exactly in the direction I feared. However, I have no alternative suggestions. It all gets overcomplicated. I like geometry nodes, but it doesn't go in any direction that sets it apart from other software because it's easier to use. That's a bit of a shame. I know it's difficult to make something new, but it's nothing new compared to other software, just different. But hey, geometry nodes are cool and fun to work with in Blender. Have fun blending, the best 3D software development, and thanks for Blender. What do you mean it's nothing new? It's inside of Blender. It is new. It's new for us, for Blender users. Blender, like geometry nodes, it's new in many levels, and once you connect, it gets expanded with like physics stuff, with hair editing, with like weird, like Blender users around the world have never been exposed to this. So it's amazing. Geometry nodes, to me, it's just amazing. It opened the possibilities for so much. And again, it's inside of Blender. They have everything in one 3D suit. Once Blender, I think what you mean is that it has all the things that it's getting, many things that other software are getting. But again, we have Eevee, we have cycles, we have the entire rest of Blender in there, right? We have the Python API, you can do pretty much anything. So again, Blender geometry nodes needs to have the basics before it has its own unique things as well, right? Next question. Puffington says, hey Pablo, could we get legacy hotkeys like backspace to reset defaults to be visible in the hotkey editor or in the text next to the list item like other hotkeys are displayed? The text next to the list item. What do you mean? So if you want to reset to default value, right click, change shortcut, or remove the shortcut. Does that not work? Like legacy hotkeys, like backspace to reset defaults. But right now it is backspace, right? Am I getting my blind? Reset to default. Sorry, I didn't get your question. And thanks for being part of the code quest. Next question. Hi Pablo, I hope you enjoyed your break. I was wondering why Apple still aren't in the font.blender.org page. My main guess is trademark. Also, the dark theme got updated. Blender's light theme got updated. I updated the Blender light theme. What's outdated with? It should be updated. Well, I think one change is that I'm gonna make it so it's the same color, but other than that, yeah, that's the one thing that I'm gonna change is the panels in the properties editor. The panels background should match the same as the there, like that, just so it becomes like this. But this is all I would do, I think. Okay, next. Oh yeah, why Apple is not in the development fund? Well, anyone, not only patrons, but patrons or corporates, anyone here, for example, if Piotr didn't want to be to have his name in the list, you can go and disable it. This is optional. Anybody that wants to have their name shown can, and if you don't want to, you can also not have it. Apple decided not to have the logo in the list, and that is a decision that any sponsor can have. The last question from last week is by Steve. Hi Pablo, glad you're back. One thing I discovered recently about Blender is that the scene graph introduced in 2.8 has a big scene graph. It's a big limitation that it only evaluates Blender for any given frame. So introducing things like a delay for channel constraints drivers is difficult, if not impossible. But also the reason motion paths have to be calculated instead of being live. It also means that you can't manipulate and animate the motion path directly. I'm sure there are other limitations, but these are the few I come to recently. I talked briefly with Sivran about this, and he confirmed it's a limitation of the scene graph. Do you think the scene graph will ever get fixed in this regard? I know it's probably a big undertaking and probably not easy to solve. It's definitely a big undertaking. I mean, just thinking about how much it took for the dependency graph to get to where it is right now, to support like all, yeah, everything that it supports now that it wasn't possible before, and the speed and everything. I don't know when would that could even be done. Like ever be fixed. Ever is a big word, right? I bet this is in the plans to be addressed, especially motion paths. I think I even seen a patch not long ago. But yeah. Pablo, refresh the page. There is another comment. No, I'm gonna answer the ones from some of the Subdivision creases. The one here by Blender Defender. There is 10 comments here. Did anybody? There is one comment. You shouldn't be leaving questions here. What is the new comment? Hey Pablo, when will Blender have C++ API and add-on support? There is no plans for that yet. I think we can do a lot without this. And imagine if Blender, or if the Python add-ons are already making some Blenders unstable, because an add-on can make Blender unstable. Imagine one that has access to the C API. Scary things. Okay, let's do let's see if I can go quickly through all of them. This one, okay, let's go through the first. I'm gonna be answering only the 10 comments that are here, because I'm running out of time, but I wanted to cover the ones from last week. Hola Pablo, Slow Kid. So glad to see you back once a week in Blender News. Yay. Do you by any chance know if Nathan Craddock will ever come back to work in the Outliner? His work on polishing was amazing, but there are still some missing features that make the workflow slower. Selecting parents should also select its children. Well, not always. It should be an option. Moving a parent from one collection to another should automatically move also its children. Again, an option. 3 duplicate objects and multiple selected objects. Duplicate objects and multiple selected objects. 4, duplicate. You know, you can add... If you write a star and space, it should do bullet points. 4, duplicate multiple selected collections. Duplicate parent and its children without having to select also its children. Okay, some of them are, there's feature requests. Some of them are improvements that could be done on the existing features. The Nathan was working like very stable with Blender. It was contributing like every day, every week even. I think he was studying at some point, so we hope, everybody hopes that he can come back at some point. He had to leave because of studies. He's very young, you know. Sometimes you think it's like, why is this person not contributing to Blender anymore? Well, they're studying. These people are geniuses with like in their early 20s or so. But yeah. With large 3 nodes, all these missing features, especially when it comes to moving between collections, becomes tedious. Hope that someone will take care of it. Next question, Softy Yoda. Soft Yoda. Hola Pablo, thanks for adding all links in YouTube description. Is a better that way. Thank you. I'm glad you appreciate. I only have one question. How do you navigate between all the developer.blender.org? I find hard to navigate without watching Blender.Today live links. How do I navigate? Well, actually, the way I gather all the changes, I have an email. So, you know, there is a lists.blender.org where you can go to the BF Blender CVS, and in archives, you can see all the changes, literally every change, like here, add field node type for content. You can see every change. So, you can also subscribe and send and you get an email sent to you. In every time there is a new commit, I get an email, and I have some filters in my account that I put them in folders. I split them in folders. If it starts with cycles, I put them in a cycles folder, and then every week I have like between 100 or 200 new emails of this. I make them skip my inbox, of course, so not a mess, but it goes to a folder with all the changes, and then I basically go one by one through all the 100 or 200 new changes in Blender, and from there I copy paste. I go And yeah, basically if I just see something, it's like, okay, zooming, I copy paste this into a Google Doc that I keep. So for example, I'll go here and then we'll add this and then add the link, copy this link. Yeah, it's a lot of monkey work, but this is what I literally do every week, something like that. And then I copy paste this and I put it in YouTube description, but often I run out of space, so I have to put it in like something like I have to shorten the URLs. So I did a little behind the scenes today. I open Sublime or some other editing software or Visual Studio Code, and I basically shorten these URLs, because this URL with this long path also works if you only have like 2, 4, 6. If you have only 6 characters, it also works. And that's how I make the URLs shorter, so it fits in the YouTube description. Okay, this was the behind the scenes that nobody asked for, but it's fun to see, to show. Okay, it's fun to show how I do things, because you can also do it that way. Of course, if you have the time. I spend my Mondays doing this, and sometimes on the weekend. But yes, the next question by Nubud. Oi Pablo, any news on Everything Notes? All the news in Everything Notes. It sort of evaded your streams for a... What do you mean? Everything Notes means Everything Notes. Geometry nodes, shading nodes, and soon hair editing nodes / physics. If you look at in the code blog, you can see the strategic targets for 2022, on which one of them is physics. Physics, well, physics is like a big word, but basically it's connected to the Geometry Nodes project, which is connected to the Everything Nodes. So yeah, let's quickly skim through this. Maybe I should have withdrawal for not seeing your streams for a couple of weeks. Any updates or knowledge on current plans will be great. Something I'm really curious about is how in node setups operators will work. Will they be essentially what exists in the properties menu? Will they be split into separate node group of nodes, such as spawn particle, particle physics, or are they going to be merged with particles? Well, the idea is to remove the particle systems. The particle system in Blender, they are end of life for already since 2.8, since 2.80. Even before 2.7.9, I would say. So basically, in the next iteration for hair nodes, these settings are all going to go away, and only emitter are going to stay until it gets replaced with something else. So basically, this whole system will be geometry nodes. I'm having a lot of trouble with the newer volume simulation. It's really susceptible to artifacts. Maybe particle-based workflow would do better. Well, connected to what I just mentioned. Again, hard bodies, fluids, yes. Also, now that we have point clouds, it's about time we have a particle system that can produce them. Yes, connected to that. Image redesign is looking good, and hopefully will lead to more work on the texture 2D viewer. Yes, which is also connected to the other huge project. And I think you mentioned baking workflow. Again, connected to texturing. And may I spoil some news? There may or may not be a new open movie reveal, well, plans reveal soon-ish. So that part of that project, it involves a lot of texturing, baking, and all of that. So you heard it first on Blender.Today. There might be, or not, a new open movie project announced soon. As in, well, if I'm saying it now, I hope it's before the next week. Okay. Next, here, Toxic Cuba says, hey Pablo, I'm just wondering, why is it import images as plain planes, still an add-on that needs to be activated and is not a basic Blender functionality. I use this a lot and hardly use all the other native Blender image options in the Shift A menu. I wondered this when I first needed the function and just accepted it this way. And I convinced a friend to use Blender for something he wanted to do with Resolve, and he again needed only import images as planes, and he had to activate that. There is an image texture native to both shaders and geometry nodes with the options. It's basically another useless hurdle for new users that could be avoided and lead to smoother user experience. Again, I think this all leads to maintenance. Who is going to maintain that? Is it as fast as it can get? Maybe this deserves to be a built-in option in Blender. If it's on by default, are Florian Mayer or Mont Matali or these people going to maintain it? Remember, everything that gets added to Blender by default has to be maintained. These add-ons are included with Blender, so they are maintained, but it's not the same as if they were like exposed there at all times. I use also this all the time. I don't know, like how could be improved. Let's see this. The UI seems pretty okay. Well, no, this is illegal. This is also illegal. DPI, like that, there's some little things to fix. But I am all for including more add-ons by default in Blender. But it needs someone to maintain it. Hey Pablo, Costa says, I've been meaning to ask this for a long time. Do you have any ideas when edge groups are coming to Blender? I just remember vaguely you saying they will be implemented after geometry nodes. Well, I mentioned that attributes will be implemented more generically, and they are becoming more and more well, here you find attributes. They are becoming more and more generic every time. There is edge domain. So in a way, there are already kind of edge groups. You can't select, but you can assign attributes to edges already. So in a way, it kind of are. It needs maybe exposed to select, assign, and that kind of stuff. It's such a useful feature for beveling hard surface workflow. What else? When are edge groups? I think when there is a real need or when someone wants to implement it. Thing is, we already have vertex groups, face groups, the face layer. This is terrible. The face maps. It's also far from what it could do. Like, functionality is very limited at the moment, and like I would say if we get edge groups and again no functionality is added, then what's the point? So find a project, a use case, and then add it. Lloyd Almedia, hi Pablo, what is the update offer to AMD GPU support on Linux? There has been no support for 2 versions now. 2 versions, but AMD GPU was added in like 3.0 and we're in 3.1. I am not sure what is the current status of that. I mean, I think I would do what everybody can, which is just checking the here there's Apple. No, if it's not mentioned here, it must have been moved into 3. No, they're under development. There you go. Performance optimization for in Apple, at least they are under development, but for regular, maybe it didn't make it. If it didn't make it so yet, I can ask the developers, but yeah, thing is, this is not being implemented by Blender developers here at the studio. It's more by the people from AMD, so it's a bit out of hand. Francesco says, hey, Francesco, hi Paulo, hope you're doing well. Is GPU support for pre-silicon Mac machines coming in anytime soon? There is here some info about Intel and AMD, but it says under development in the 3.1 release, so I assume if it doesn't make it in time. We're in Beacon 3. Some of these things are still acceptable. But I would say keep an eye on this page. Bro, have you ever used Delta Transforms? Bro, no, bro. Well, yes, this thing. Bro, Delta Transform, you mean? Or not? What do you mean, bro? Hello, the Blender screenshots in Blender.org. Why the shouting? Official landing pages are 2. Oh, they're still for 2.8. Can you please change it to 3.1s? Can you change them to 3.0 and then I will update it, please? The entire Blender.org. There are sections in Blender.org that need so much love and attention. Entire sections, like, they get involved. This is depressing, and this should be like the happiest place on earth. It should be welcoming. But yes, there is so much that we are working on, and we don't have a web designer either at the moment. Well, that's me, but also I would like to work on other stuff and the UI. And Mondays are taking with the live stream. So welcome community involvement in this kind of work. If you have a proposal on how this should look, get in touch. Drew AB, it's the last question of today. Hi Pablo, I've been following you since episode 112. Do you remember the number of the episode that you... Wow. Well, good to see you. I would like to contribute by purchasing merchandise and wear the Blender logo, but none of the items really attract me. So I'm wondering if a broader variety of items could attract more supporters. Maybe a call for content might work. I'm pretty sure that many artists will be keen to join the call. Sure, but what exactly do you think it's I know the current listing is not too sexy. However, there's new t-shirts available. The import BPY, it's new. Well, it was in the store some years ago, and it was it went like out, like on sold out super quickly. And this one is, again, for people that make add-ons. I think it's pretty cool. It just says import BPY. That's it. With the colors of the text editor in Blender. On a deep chocolate or dark brown color. It's all organic cotton, 100%. So it's actually good stuff. It's a bit more expensive than regular t-shirts, than those that are a bit of everything. But hey, it's good quality. And what else? There is the cube t-shirt is back. The default cube, but I guess this one would only make sense if you if you use Blender in like 2.4, early 2.5, 2.6. So at some point, the default, like when you hit render, the default color of the background used to be blue, like this blue. So this is like an inside joke for really old farts that have been around for a while. Then you have the UV socks. Then you have, there should be beanies as well. Are they? Yeah, the beanies are here. So what exactly do you think we should be adding to the store? Super open to new stuff. I was thinking of like bottles of water. Like that's something, we all have different bottles here at the studio, and we could use new ones. I have this from a SIGGRAPH from Fuse FX from forever ago. Last SIGGRAPH I attended. Okay, that is all for today. I think I covered all the questions from last week, 10 from this week, and I'm so weak. 16 minutes past the time. So, how's everybody? Let's see. How's the chat? I'm reading the chat in case there is something. The Noodle Monster t-shirt was very nice. I am wearing the Noodle Monster, and it's actually coming back. Look, the Noodle Monster t-shirt. It is coming back. Which color though? Because yeah, that's what we were thinking. Like, should be a different color. I was thinking maybe like a dark purple or yellow, or let me know. Coffee mugs, color grid t-shirt, a UV t-shirt. Would you really wear a UV t-shirt? Like with all the numbers and the lines and the colors? Yeah, maybe. So, okay, coffee mugs, yes. But it has to be a good coffee mug. I don't want like a tiny one like this, or like a mid-size like this. Yeah, I have a mess here. It'll be like a big mug that, you know, like even this one. A time ago I made these Caminandes mugs, but they are so tiny that I don't use them for actually drinking. I just have them on my desk. But I want to find, you know, like a big mug that you could hug in winter. Anyway, I am way past the time. I hope you had a great time. I did. We covered so much today. The questions from last week, I'm pretty happy I managed to do that. We managed to have some hands-on with some Blender features. I hope you had fun. I did. Let's do it again. Same place. Same place for real, because I'm gonna be here. Same place, same time next week for another episode of Watch Out Your Ear Holes. No, that's not the name of the show. The name of the show is Blender.Today. Okay. Thanks, everyone. See you next week. Bye-bye. Thank you. Gracias. Tak. Arigato. Danke. Danke well. Grazie. Tante grazie. Gracias. Remember, if you speak Spanish, it's Blender.Today coming. See you next week. Bye.